Good morning. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. My name's Lorene. I hope you all are having a good summer. So far, it's pretty good here. And I've got two books. I'm going to bring two. That's not how you do two. Two books that I'm going to bring to you today. One is like a 5 out of 5, absolutely. And the other is a series that I've been reading that still continues to be pretty good. So the 5 out of 5 is Grazie by Lucia Frangioni. Now, that's my version of the Italian pronunciation. Her last name is spelled Frangione. So I'll put that in the doobly-doo below. But one of the reasons my husband picked this book up was because of the cover. And I thought, yeah, that is a pretty striking cover. And it does have quite a lot to do with the story inside. So the story is about Grazie. She's a young mom, fairly young, and she has had a child as the result of a rape. This is not a spoiler. And what happens as we encounter this story is that her rapist has died recently in a car crash. It says it in the first sentence on the back, so no spoilers. And it's quite a hit to her fairly fragile coping mechanisms. She doesn't dislike her child, whose name is it Hazel? Oh my goodness, she's such a great. Yes, it is Hazel. Hazel is so great. So Hazel is about 7-ish, 8-ish as we encounter this story. And Grazia has been a pretty good mom given the circumstances, but the situation with her attacker has left her with some pretty deep scarring, and she has avoided a lot of things. And some of them are the things that an average parent might do. So not being able to attend all the teacher-parent interviews, for instance, or having a consistently clean and well-fed child. So some of the benchmarks of being a normal parent are a bit lacking for Grazia and Hazel. And Hazel, I would say, was definitely a child with ADHD and probably some other side along things. And I suspect, I'm not a psychologist, but I suspect that Hazel is also dealing with some anger and abandonment issues just because mom tunes out occasionally. So that's kind of the background. And what happens after the death of the attacker is made clear. Then Grazia plummets into a new PTSD event. And Hazel has to go and spend time with her grandpa, who Hazel calls Grumpy. And Grumpy is not exactly an unwilling guardian, but just has never had any children of his own. And Hazel is his sort of grandchild. They don't have a terribly close relationship. Grazia has kind of kept herself somewhat aloof from her mother and her stepdad. And so Hazel doesn't have a tight relationship with this gentleman. And he's in his early 60s, and his wife, Lucy, has recently died of cancer. And actually, not terribly recently, I shouldn't say that, that's a bit wrong. She has died at the same time that Grazia was raped. So that's part of Grazia's story, is the death of her mom through cancer and the rape and the pregnancy. And Grandpa has not been informed of any of this. So he doesn't really have any understanding of why Grazia is the way she is. So we've got this story of Grazia dealing fairly responsibly with her new emotional turmoil, and she has given guardianship to this gentleman, and he's doing a fairly reasonable job. Hazel is not interested in him having a successful parenting experience, so she's off to the races in terms of being disrupted and disorderly and just rebelling as much as possible. But he's got a positive effect on young Hazel. I think that as a consequence further down in the road in the book that his success as a parent sort of ends up circling back to Grazia and her relationship with Hazel, because she has to come to terms with his intervention, the fact that she needs him to be doing this so that she can heal. And one of the things that that's sort of the joke, the pun on the story, on the book cover, I'm sorry, is Hazel doesn't hear that her mom has gone to a psych ward. She hears that mom has gone cycling. So that's why we see the main character on this bike, because as the pretense of mom being away on a cycling journey in order to get healthy, they're not hiding that part that mom's trying to get emotionally healthy. They're just hiding the part that she is actually not very far away, but is choosing to not engage with Grumpy and Hazel as part of coming to terms with her story. So young Hazel feels that why is mom on this bike trip, and why can't I go, and how come I don't have a bike? Why does mom get the bike? And so there's a lot of humor around the bike, and eventually the bike does turn into part of Grazia's healing process. So this part is quite interesting because she ends up going over to Europe and joining not like the Camino Trail where you do a pilgrimage, but there is some kind of Italian, I'm pretty sure it's Italian, bike lane. I don't know how to explain it. It's a bike trail in a sense, but you're on paths and streets and not dirt biking or anything, but there are groomed paths that you would take in order to hit all these spots. And so that's part of Grazia's journey to, she and Grumpy have come to the conclusion that she actually needs to do this biking piece to separate herself entirely from the situation at home and just work her way through it. That having the therapists in her head means that she's not internalizing a lot of things. So she's made this pledge to do this journey and to really internalize the lessons that she's learning in terms of self-care and healing and all the rest of it. So I loved this story. It's a solid 5 out of 5 for me. Steve read it as well, and he was really enjoying it. And for fiction, that's odd that we both feel a 5 out of 5 on the same book. And we've mentioned this, I book talked this all the way across Canada because I think I picked it up in Salt Spring Islands at that amazing bookstore. And then every other bookstore that I was in, I mentioned it to the owners of those bookstores. And one or two of them have book clubs that they're going to bring it forward and see whether, their book clubs would like to read it. And I've mentioned it to my 2 book clubs that deal with adult books. And where else? Yeah, I'm going to, the one that's book club with Jolene, Reading Across Canada, I think we have agreed to read it for July, which makes it easy on me. I've already read it, so I get a free month. But I am going to bring it forward to a different book club and see whether they buy into it, which makes it just sort of universally easy for me since I've already read this book. But I feel that a lot of people are really going to enjoy this. And I would not be surprised to see this on some of the prize short lists. For sure long lists, short lists, and possibly prize winner. I strongly recommend this one. So, Grazie. I should also say that Lucia Frangioni has written more than one book. There's 5 other books in here. And I have this terrible feeling I might have already talked about this book. So if I'm repeating myself, that's okay. You didn't hear it the first time. I didn't remember it from the first time. And we can be sure that since I did it twice, it's really a good book. So we're hearing some outside noise. Steve is working on the boat, and if I don't film this now, it's only going to get crazier because the the garden landscapers are coming tomorrow, and we have a retaining wall that's failed, so there's going to be lots of construction noises as they pull that apart, put it back together. So it's now or never. The second book is a part of a series that I've been reading for, I would say, over the course of the last 12 months, picking it up sort of here and there. It's the Mistletoe and Murder with the Wells and Wong Detective Society. It's written by Robin Stevens, and it is a middle grade book. Sometimes the mysteries for this age group are a little bit easy peasy, but if you get a really good series, then no, not so much. So there's another one out there, Enola Holmes. I don't remember the author, but that's another good detective type stories where she is the younger sister of Sherlock Holmes, and it's a middle grade series as well. So we've got Daisy and, oh my gosh, I think her name's Hazel too. Yes, her name's Hazel too. Isn't that funny? Anyhow, they have gone to Cambridge to be with Daisy's older brother over the Christmas holidays, and they are at St. Lucy's, which is a fictional college, and it's for women students, because this is still at a time where they could now go to school, but they could not necessarily get degrees. So this is that cusp where some women are actually getting their doctor degrees and so on, but you can't at this moment get a degree in mathematics or something like that. So they've gone to see their brother Bertie, and there's a murder in his staircase. His staircase has 6 bedrooms plus the Dawn's room and bathroom, and so on this staircase someone dies. And the other two new ingredients to this series is Alexander and George, who we meet in the previous book through letters, but in the book prior to even that we meet Alexander, I think it's Murder on the Orient Express, and he is a friend of Bertie's. And so the 4 of them come together, and Hazel is the one who writes the letters back and forth to Alexander. And so the last book, they helped solve the crime through their advice through the letters. Now all 4 of them are together, and they're going to solve this murder. So each murder becomes just a little bit more complex, and because there's more people solving the crimes, the clues are a little bit more complex. And the setting is a little bit more complex. They're in the town of Cambridge, so they're navigating the men's college, the women's college, the town of Cambridge, and I guess that's it. Plus it's Christmas, and I guess Daisy in particular likes a good murder. So this is fine with her to be waking up on Christmas Eve and having solved a murder mystery. Like, that just makes Christmas so much better. Now, I have called from the library the next one, and I can't remember what the next one's called, but there are some ones that Robin Stevens has written that are like 3.5 and 4.5, but they're more short stories, novella kind of things, and I'm not too keen on that, so I'm just sticking to the novels. This is solid, and you know me, I think that middle grade books are absolutely for adults. I find that quite often the characters and the plots are much better handled than some of the adult books that I've encountered. So woe is me sometimes. So that's it for me today. I hope all your reading dreams and adventures continue to come true, and I will see you next week with a half-built garden, perhaps. Bye-bye for now.